Have you ever heard of this in writing class? Write what you know. A lot of times people just take that on the nose and they're like, hey, I know that I am a grocery bagger at, the local Kroger. I was in Boy Scouts or I played football in high school or something, or maybe I was a gymnastics person. There's a lot of times people just don't really understand what that means. Well, lucky for us, George R.R. Martin, the great writer of our time, who's written books that are beloved, even though he's frustrated audiences with not releasing his final two books for the Game of Thrones book series. However, he went on stage about 3 years ago and he actually explained what it means to write what you know. And this is extremely insightful. So stick around. I want you to listen to this. I think you'll glean a lot from it, and it might just change your entire perspective when it comes to writing stories. And if you don't know me, I'm Joe. Here on the Wiseworks Studio channel, we watch videos, we learn, we absorb, we bring news around the future of filmmaking. And so if that's your thing, go ahead and subscribe. I'm sure you'll enjoy the videos. So let's go ahead and see what George Martin has to say.
There may be some aspiring writers in this group who want to do novels or short stories of your own. One of the things that you will probably hear from a lot of teachers and people who give advice to aspiring writers is write what you know. At least in the United States, in English literature, this is something always said to aspiring writers. Write what you know. When I was a young writer, I hated hearing that because I didn't know anything, really. I was this kid from the projects in Bayonne, New Jersey. I'd never gone anywhere, never had any money. I wanted to write fantasy and science fiction, but I'd certainly never seen a dragon. I'd never gone to another planet. I'd never done any of this stuff. So how could I write what I know? So I sort of rejected that and said, well, that's bullshit. I'm not going to follow that advice.
And right off the top, like, it's so obvious that, like, if you hear that and then you see some of the great stories that's been written, you're like, okay, obviously this isn't good advice. And his rationale is perfectly logical and relatable.
But later, and when I actually became a writer, I began to understand the truth of that. It's not writing what you know in terms of the care and raising of dragons, or it's writing the emotional truth of your own life, and whatever furniture you may put into your story, whether it's a realistic story about, what it's like to live in Barcelona in the year 2012 and, the day-to-day struggles of life, or whether you're casting it in a historical context, what it was like to live in Spain in 1492 or whatever, when the Moors were being kicked out and the Jews were being kicked out and Columbus was discovering America, or whether it's a far distant planet or a fantasy world. The core of it is still what you know in terms of emotional truth. That's what's going to make the characters come alive.
So the focus point here is emotional truth. Okay. So I think he elaborates on it a little bit here.
That's what's going to make it real. Now, I have a friend, a contemporary, who served in the United States Armed Forces during the Vietnam War. He had some very traumatic experiences over there. He saw some horrible things. He did some things. He learned a lot about war and the nature of humanity, and it's clear that these events that happened to him between roughly the ages, I guess, of 18 and 22 or 23 became in some ways the defining characteristic of his life. And he has subsequently written a number of books, and some of them are realistic books, novels about the Vietnam War, novels about coming home after the Vietnam War. Some of them are science fiction books about other wars in 1,000 years from now fought among the stars. But you can read those those science fiction books, and you can see that the power in them derives from the fact that he served in the Vietnam War, and he knows what he was talking about. There's that core of emotional truth there. He's writing what he knows. He's writing from the heart, or from the gut, as you might say. And that's what makes his work, his best work, so powerful. When he doesn't write about war, I think he produces some very entertaining books, but they don't necessarily have the same power as when he's writing about the subject that he really knows. Which brings me back to me, who did not serve in the Vietnam War, who in fact was part of the anti-war movement resisting it.
This little fan that he's flipping around is killing me. It's a character in this video. It's distracting a little bit, George.
I was at home. I went to college and then I got out of college. And the big defining characteristics of my life in these periods was.
Sorry, I just can't take it. It just. he's talking about important things. Let's keep going.
Was I had a number of women who broke my heart.
Ooh.
And it seems very trivial compared to serving in the Vietnam War, but boy, it didn't feel trivial to me. And the questions of love and romance and sexuality and existential loneliness occupied my mind and obsessed me for years. And as a result, I produced a series of intensely romantic science fiction short stories and novels about guys who were getting their hearts broken among the stars, including Dying in Light, which I think is the ultimate example of it. So I too was writing what you know, even though I've never been to the planet Warlorn or seen a society like that of High Kavalan or any of the things that were in there. Those were the imaginative constructs, but the emotional heart of the book goes back to write what you know.
All right, let's break this down as best we can. Okay, so the emotional truths, that is what you know. Okay, so your experiences create in you truth and perspective that is very unique to you. And that's what makes stories interesting. Like, you could tell a story that's full of action or adventure or intrigue, but if you don't get the humanity of your story correct, then it's ultimately going to probably fall fairly flat for audiences, because people enter cool stories also looking for that human connection point. People are looking for the humanity of the characters. And so it's very insightful. So if I were to apply it to my situation, things that I know that I'm either dealing with or truths that I'm working through. Like, one example is the worries of being a new father, right? So I have a little baby girl and she's about to turn 2. So the 2 years of being a new father is worries and confidence and stress and a new level of like bravery, I guess, inside of me that has solidified a lot of emotional truths that are crafting my humanity. And so that might be an interesting direction to take, right? Because I have experience, human experience. So a lot of people who are fathers or people who are new fathers especially will really resonate with a character that's written from that perspective. And I can write from there from an authentic place. Another example would be like the pursuit of a dream that is very difficult to earn. So I am really interested in filmmaking. I've been pursuing filmmaking, narrative filmmaking, since like 2010. Like, ever since before I graduated high school, I have been really intrigued and obsessed with the idea of filmmaking. And I've taken little paths here or there to try to make wise decisions. But becoming a filmmaker, getting people to watch your stuff, getting people to be interested in the stories that you have to tell is a very difficult dream to achieve at a high level. And that's, if it was easy, everybody would do it, because filmmaking is a lot of fun. But there's a lot of difficulty there. So pursuing a dream from childhood that's very difficult to achieve, that's the emotional journey there, is something I can write from an authentic place, right? I know about the journey. I'm still in the journey, but that means I experience the emotions on almost a day-to-day basis. And then the other example that I was thinking of is the struggles surrendering your life to a belief system. For me, I'm a Christian. Like, I am a man of faith, all right? And so there's a whole lifelong series of denying self, of doubt, of worry, of choosing to surrender a situation, right? Choosing to surrender what I believe to be my eternal soul, right? There's so many emotions wrapped up in that that can bring out an extremely compelling character because I'm writing from an authentic place. It's emotions. It is a path that I am on. And so I know what a character would also be feeling and experiencing on that path. So the story is not the setting. The setting is, as he said, a sci-fi. People who are having their heart broken amongst the stars, right? The stars, the sci-fi genre is just the setting. It's actually just the canvas that you are painting these dynamic characters and human connection points on. And it can create extremely interesting, very valuable stories to people because an interesting setting is what is kind of the door to open up to get people to watch. But it is the writing what you know is what keeps people watching and is what causes them to walk away from a story or a film, right? Really touched, really feeling like they experienced something that they haven't experienced before and were able to connect with the story on an emotional level. In about 5 minutes, George Martin solidified his wisdom of saying, write what you know. That doesn't make sense. And then all of his years of writing, he's able to communicate it to us. And I think it's very valuable. Let me know in the comments if you found this valuable and share your own personal experiences that you believe you can write from. I think it's very valuable to actually write down a few ideas of your own life experiences, your own belief systems, your own places of truth that can really connect with other people who are in a similar predicament or who have a similar worldview or a similar experience as you have had. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it and like it. I'll see you next time.